The Galactic Academy rose above the planet like a blade of silver glass, sharp and cold against the stars. It was a place built for the strongest minds and bodies in the known galaxy. Species from 100 worlds trained here to become commanders, tacticians, and enforcers of the galactic order. Inside its walls, weakness was not corrected, it was erased. That was why the human girl did not belong. She stood at the edge of the central training hall, smaller than everyone around her shoulders tense but her spine straight. Around her, towering figures moved with confidence. Scaled warriors with clawed hands, insect-like beings with hard shells and clicking mandibles, tall avians whose wings folded like blades at their sides. Their voices filled the hall in deep rumbles and sharp tones, laughing, boasting, colliding with one another like predators at ease. And then there was her. Human, soft-skinned, unarmored, quiet. Eyes followed her wherever she went. Some were curious. Most were amused. A few were openly hostile. She could feel their judgment pressing down on her, heavier than gravity. Humans were new to the academy. It's too new. They were tolerated, not respected. Officially, humans were classified as adaptive contributors. Unofficially, everyone knew what that meant. Weak bodies, short lifespans, no natural weapons, easy targets. The instructor's voice cut through the noise, sharp and commanding. The students gathered in lines, sorted by species and physical class. The human girl was placed at the far end, alone. No one stood beside her. She kept her face neutral, but her hands curled slightly at her sides. She had trained for this moment for years. She had studied alien cultures, academy protocols, and survival tactics. Still, nothing could fully prepare her for the weight of being watched like prey. The first exercise began quickly. Strength trials, reaction tests, controlled combat drills. One by one, students stepped forward, demonstrating power and speed. Heavy blows shattered reinforced targets. Energy weapons scorched practice drones out of the air. The crowd cheered when something impressive happened. When it was the human's turn, the noise changed. Laughter rippled through the hall. She walked forward anyway. The platform adjusted automatically, lowering resistance to match her species profile. That alone earned more mockery. She ignored it. She focused on her breathing. On the data scrolling across the display, on finishing the test. She moved cleanly, efficiently, not fast enough to impress them, not strong enough to silence them. She passed. Barely. That should have been the end of it. It wasn't. As she stepped down from the platform, something large blocked her path. A shadow fell over her, heavy and deliberate. She looked up slowly. The alien was massive, even by academy standards. Thick muscle layered beneath dark plated skin. His eyes were bright with amusement, his mouth pulled back in a sharp-toothed grin. He was known among the students. A top-tier combatant. A natural predator. He leaned down just enough to make sure everyone could see. "So that's the human," he said loudly, his voice echoing across the hall. I expected more. The laughter grew louder. The instructor did not intervene. The alien stepped closer, invading her space. "Tell me," he continued, circling her slowly, "do humans break easily, or do they scream first?" The human girl said nothing. Her silence only encouraged him. With a sudden shove, he pushed her backward, not hard enough to count as an attack, hard enough to humiliate. She stumbled, caught herself, and stayed standing. The crowd reacted with approval. "Careful," someone shouted. "You'll snap her in half." The alien raised his hands in mock surrender. Just testing her balance, the instructor watched, eyes unreadable. The human felt heat rise in her chest. Fear. Yes. But something else. Deeper and sharper. Oh. She lowered her gaze. Not in submission, but in control. She forced her breathing to steady. She took in details instead. The alien's stance was wide, overconfident. His movements were heavy, but predictable. He enjoyed being seen. Good, she thought. The next exercise was paired combat. Names appeared on the screen, matched by algorithm. When her opponent's name appeared, the hall erupted. It was him. The alien grinned and cracked his neck as he stepped onto the training circle.
That's...
Lucky me. The human walked to her position. The floor beneath her feet felt colder now. The barrier rose around them, sealing them in clear energy walls. No escape, no interference. "Begin," the instructor ordered. The alien moved immediately, lunging forward with crushing force. The human dodged barely. The air where she had been exploded as his strike hit the floor. She felt the shockwave travel up her legs. She moved again, faster this time, staying just out of reach. Her heart pounded, but her eyes stayed locked on him. She was not trying to win, not yet. He laughed as he chased her, swinging wide, sloppy strikes meant to terrify rather than connect. "Run," he said. "That's what humans do best." She tripped. The moment felt endless. Her body hit the floor hard, knocking the air from her lungs. Pain flared across her ribs. The alien loomed over her, raising his foot. The hall went silent. This was the moment they expected. The breaking point. The instructor did not stop the match. The alien's foot came down. The human rolled at the last second. The impact cracked the floor where her head had been. She pushed herself up, shaking but still moving. She did not cry. She did not beg. She met his eyes. Something shifted, not in the crowd. For just a moment, his grin faltered. He struck again, harder now, anger replacing amusement. The human blocked poorly, was thrown back, slammed into the barrier. Pain screamed through her body. Still she stood. Blood ran from her lip. She wiped it away with the back of her hand and stayed silent. The timer ended the match. The barrier dropped. The alien turned away, annoyed. "Fragile," he muttered. Just like they said. The instructor called the session complete. Students dispersed, buzzing with excitement. The story was already spreading. Human had been humiliated. The hierarchy reaffirmed. No one noticed the way the human remained behind, standing alone on the cracked floor. No one noticed the way her eyes followed the alien as he left. No one noticed the slow, careful way she replayed every movement in her mind. She was shaking, in pain, exhausted. But beneath it all, something solid took shape. They thought she had learned her place. What she had learned was theirs. The academy had no idea what it had just begun. The medical wing was quiet when the human girl arrived, her steps slow but steady. The lights above were soft, almost gentle, but they did nothing to ease the ache spreading through her body. Each breath reminded her of the impact, the barrier, the floor. An automated scanner moved over her, projecting data into the air. Fractured ribs, muscle damage, internal bruising. Nothing life-threatening. The system labeled it acceptable training injury. She almost laughed. A medical drone hovered close, ready to administer pain suppressants. She refused with a small shake of her head. Pain kept her sharp. Pain reminded her of every mistake she had made. When she was released, she did not return to the dorms. Instead, she walked the long corridors of the academy, memorizing routes she had ignored before. Cameras, blind spots. Maintenance doors, emergency locks. The academy was built for power, not subtlety. It was its flaw. Over the next cycles, the bullying did not stop. If anything, it became more casual, more public. Alien students bumped into her on purpose, knocked data pads from her hands, laughed when she struggled to carry equipment meant for heavier species. The instructor saw everything. It did nothing. To them, this was natural order. Pressure refined the strong and crushed the weak. If the human failed, that was proof enough. She endured it all in silence. Classes, she sat at the back, listening. While others relied on implanted knowledge and instinct, she took notes. Real notes. She studied alien anatomy charts, noting joint limits, balance weaknesses, reaction delays. She learned that many species were powerful, but inefficient. They burned energy quickly. They telegraphed their movements. They relied on fear to win before a fight truly began. She stopped seeing them as monsters. She started seeing them as systems. One evening, as she trained alone in a secondary gym, a shadow crossed the entrance. The alien bully stepped inside, followed by two others. The door sealed behind them with a heavy sound. "No audience this time," he said calmly. "Just advice." Her heart rate spiked, but her face stayed blank. She adjusted her stance slightly, shifting weight to her back foot. He noticed. That amused him. He moved fast, slamming her into the wall before she could react. Pain exploded across her shoulder. One of the others laughed. "You should quit," the bully said, his voice low now. "Before something permanent happens." She met his gaze, breathing hard. "You talk too much." The word surprised even her. For a moment, the room froze. Then his hand closed around her throat, lifting her off the ground. The pressure was crushing, stars bursting in her vision, and still, she watched. She watched the angle of his wrist, the way his balance shifted forward. The moment his grip tightened, she struck then, driving her thumb into a nerve cluster she had memorized from medical diagrams. It was a small movement, precise, desperate. He released her with a roar of pain, more shocked than hurt. She hit the floor hard, gasping, but rolled away before he could recover. Alarms blared. Security drones flooded the room, weapons primed. Aliens stepped back, expressions shifting to annoyance and mild concern. The incident was logged as mutual aggression. She was warned. He was warned. Nothing changed, but something had cracked. From that day on, the alien watched her differently. Still mocked her, still challenged her, but there was caution now, question he could not silence. The next public evaluation arrived sooner than expected. This time, it was a tactical simulation. Students were placed in a controlled environment and given objectives. Speed and efficiency determined rank. When the human's name appeared on the screen, the murmurs returned. She entered the simulation chamber alone. The environment loaded around her, transforming into a ruined cityscape. Broken structures, low visibility, artificial gravity fluctuating. Perfect for larger species to dominate through brute force. She crouched immediately, listening. Her opponent arrived moments later, the same alien. The simulation began. He charged through debris, confident, loud, smashing obstacles in his path. He wanted her to hear him, to feel hunted. She moved the opposite way. She used shadows, tight spaces, vertical angles he struggled with. She triggered environmental hazards, collapsing pathways, forcing him to reroute. Minutes passed. Thereat the crowd grew restless, then frustrated. He found her at last, cornering her atop a broken structure. The distance between them closed, fast. There was nowhere to run, so she waited until the last second, then jumped not away, but toward him. She used his momentum, twisted midair, and drove both of them through a weakened surface. They crashed into a lower level in a cloud of dust. When it cleared, he was trapped beneath a fallen support beam. Pinned by his own weight and the environment he had ignored, she stood over him, shaking, bleeding, but standing. The simulation timer ticked down. Victory registered in her favor. The chamber went silent. No cheers, no laughter. Just disbelief. The instructors exchanged looks. Data scrolled rapidly across their displays. This was not supposed to happen. The algorithm had not predicted this outcome. She exited the chamber without looking back. Whispers followed her now, different from before. Less mocking, more uncertain. The academy had expected her to break. Instead, she was adapting. And the lesson they missed was simple. She was only getting started. The academy changed after the simulation. It was not loud or obvious. No announcements were made. No rules were rewritten. But the halls felt different when the human walked through them. Eyes followed her now with care. Some students stepped aside. Others watched from a distance, whispering in low tones. A few looked at her with open interest, studying her the way predators studied terrain. She felt it all, and she stayed calm. The alien who had bullied her did not approach her again at first. He watched. He trained harder. He spoke less. Pride had turned into something sharp and restless. That worried her more than mockery ever had. During the next combat briefing, her name was called early. That alone caused a ripple through the room. Early slots were reserved for higher-risk evaluations. Instructor's voice was flat. Formal challenge has been issued. The room went still. The challenge meant rules. Witnesses, records, no deniability. The alien stepped forward when his name appeared beside hers. He did not smile this time. His jaw was tight, his posture rigid. "This ends today," he said quietly, just loud enough for her to hear. She looked at him without fear. As she replied, the arena was larger than the training hall. Tiered seating rose around a central platform reinforced for heavy combat. Energy barriers shimmered faintly, ready to contain whatever happened inside. Students filled the seats quickly. Instructors stood in a high observation ring. Data analysts prepared predictive models. Every system said the same thing. The human should lose. She entered the arena slowly, feeling the weight of the moment settle into her bones. These pains still lived in her body from previous fights. Fatigue followed her like a shadow. She'd welcomed it. Pain meant she had survived. The alien entered from the opposite side. His armor was lighter than usual. He had learned. He stretched, rolled his shoulders, focused his gaze on her. This time, there was no laughter. The signal sounded. He moved first, fast and controlled. No wasted motion. His strikes were tighter now, meant to break rather than scare. She retreated, absorbing the rhythm, letting him think he was winning ground. The floor shook with each of his steps. A glancing blow caught her side. She hissed in pain, but stayed upright. The crowd reacted, breath held. He pressed harder. She gave ground on purpose. The arena had been designed for larger species, but she had studied its limits. Structural weak points, energy drain zones, angles where sensors lagged by milliseconds. She led him there. When he overextended, she struck not with power, but timing. A kick to destabilize, strike to a joint not meant to bend that way. He stumbled, more surprised than hurt. She did not celebrate. She moved again. The alien roared and charged, anger breaking through his control. The floor cracked under his weight, grabbed her, slammed her down, drove the air from her lungs. For a moment, darkness closed in. She remembered the first day, the laughter, the silence of the instructors. It's the expectation that she would fail quietly. Her hand found purchase. She twisted, slipping free just enough to breathe. She rolled, came up on one knee, then forced herself upright. Blood ran into her eyes. She wiped it away and stood. A murmur swept through the seats. The alien stared at her, chest heaving. He had hit her with enough force to end most fights. She was still there, still standing. He attacked again, wild now, every strike heavy with frustration. She blocked what she could, avoided what she couldn't, and endured what remained. Each impact sent pain screaming through her body. She did not fall. She waited. When his breathing grew uneven, when his movements slowed just enough, she acted. She used the arena itself. She leaped toward a raised platform, bounced off its edge, and drew him into following her. He did not notice the damaged support beneath his feet. It collapsed under his weight. He fell hard, armor scraping, balance gone. She landed beside him and drove her knee down onto a pressure point she had memorized long ago. He screamed. The sound echoed through the arena, raw and real. She stepped back immediately, hands open, making no move to continue. The rules were clear. Could not continue. The signal sounded again. The fight was over. For several seconds, no one spoke. Then the arena erupted. Not with cheers, with stunned noise, confused voices, arguments breaking out among instructors and analysts. The data made no sense. The alien lay on the floor, restrained by emergency systems, staring up at the ceiling. His eyes were wide, unfocused, not from pain alone, from realization. The human stood at the center of the arena, swaying slightly. Medical drones rushed toward her, but she waved them off until she could no longer stand. When she finally dropped to one knee, the crowd went silent again. The instructors descended. They looked at her differently now, not as a problem, as a variable. In the medical wing, she lay still as systems worked to stabilize her. Fractures, severe exhaustion, internal damage, still not fatal. She smiled faintly at that. Word spread beyond the academy before she was even released. Other institutions requested footage. Analysts argued over classifications. Military observers took interest. Humans were no longer listed as adaptive contributors. They were being reviewed. When she returned to the dorms days later, the halls parted for her. No one touched her things. No one laughed. Some nodded. Some avoided her eyes. The alien was transferred out of the academy, officially for recovery, unofficially for failure. She never saw him again. Late one cycle, she stood alone by a viewport, watching distant stars drift past. The academy felt smaller now. She knew this was not the end. She had proven something important, but dangerous. Not that humans were strong, that they learned. And the Academy, finally, had stopped laughing. The Academy did not return to normal after her victory. It adjusted around her slowly and carefully, like a structure testing a new kind of weight. Systems updated. Observation protocols changed. Human data was moved from the margins to the center of analysis. She felt the shift everywhere she went. Doors opened faster. Instructors paused when she spoke. Training schedules changed without explanation, placing her in advanced sessions meant for senior students. No one apologized. The Academy did not admit mistakes. It only corrected outcomes. A notice appeared on her console 3 cycles after her release from the medical wing. Mandatory evaluation, closed session. No spectators. She read it twice, then once more. Closed sessions were rare. They meant interest from above the Academy itself. From the council that oversaw interspecies balance and threat classification. She arrived early. The evaluation chamber was different from any space she had trained in before. The walls were smooth and dark, absorbing light. No visible weapons. No obvious hazards. The floor adjusted subtly beneath her feet, responding to her weight and stance. Across from her stood 3 figures. An instructor, a tactical analyst, and something else. The third figure was not a student. It was tall, thin, and perfectly still. Its skin shimmered faintly, as if reality struggled to define its edges. Its eyes were ancient and focused entirely on her. "State your designation," the analyst said. She did. Clear. "State your species. Human." The third figure tilted its head slightly. "Interesting," it said, its voice layered and quiet. "You do not move like one." The evaluation began without warning. The room changed instantly. Gravity spiked, then dropped, then twisted sideways. Lights cut out and returned in harsh flashes. Sound distorted, then vanished completely. She reacted without panic. She lowered her center of gravity, slowed her breathing, and moved only when necessary. She had learned that panic wasted energy. Fear clouded timing. The chamber tested her in ways brute strength could not answer. Logic puzzles under physical stress. Moral dilemmas layered into survival scenarios. Simulations where saving one target meant losing another. She failed some. She adapted to all. When the final scenario ended, she stood alone in the quiet chamber, chest rising and falling, sweat cooling on her skin. Her muscles burned. Her mind ached. She waited. The lights returned fully. The 3 observers stood where they had been, unchanged. The ancient figure stepped forward. "Do you understand why you were allowed into this academy?" it asked. She considered the question, because humans wanted a seat at the table. The figure's eyes narrowed slightly. "No, humans wanted to know where the table was." Silence stretched. "You are not strong by our measures," it continued. "You are not fast. You are not long-lived. Yet you survive scenarios that eliminate species designed for war." She met its gaze. "We don't need to be the best at one thing." The figure studied her carefully. "You are dangerous," it said at last. "Not because you dominate, but because you learn faster than we can predict." The analyst shifted uncomfortably. "The council is divided," the figure went on. "Some believe humans should be limited. Others believe you should be recruited." "And you?" she asked. A pause. Long enough to matter. "I believe," the figure said slowly, "that you should be watched." The evaluation ended there. She was cleared, promoted, reclassified. Human students began arriving at the academy in greater numbers soon after. Not many, just enough to matter. They were watched closely, trained harder, tested more harshly. They adapted. The academy began to change its curriculum. Strength was no longer the only metric. Endurance mattered. Creativity mattered. Refusal mattered. Other species noticed. Some resented it. Some feared it. Few sought to understand it. The human girl became something she had never planned to be, a reference point. When conflicts arose between students, instructors asked a new question. How would a human approach this? She never boasted, never threatened, never reminded anyone of what she had done. She simply continued training. Late one cycle, she stood again by the viewport, watching stars slide past like silent witnesses. A group of younger students passed behind her, alien and human mixed. One of them laughed. It sounded normal. That mattered more than victory. A message arrived on her console. Secure channel, external origin. She opened it. The text was brief. First contact protocols are being revised. Human advisory requested. Your presence is required. She closed her eyes for a moment, like the Academy had tried to break her. Instead, it had revealed something it could not unsee. Humans were not a threat because they fought. They were a threat because they endured, learned, and came back smarter. She turned from the stars and walked toward the future that was now watching her just as closely. The galaxy had tested a human. It would never make that mistake again.